Well, good morning. It is good to see you. I hope that you are enjoying this. How great is this? This is fantastic. I mean, it's been way too long since we've been able to do one of our staple Centerville Church of Christ VBSs, and this one is absolutely one to remember, one for the books. We got Redwoods National Park, we got Arches National Park, a little bit of Yellowstone with geysers and bison in the back, Yosemite, and El Capitan for you mountain climbers here in the Midwest, this is it's just this beautiful thing. In fact, downstairs, every inch of the downstairs is covered in brown paper as Mammoth Cave National Park. If you want a genuine first century Christian worship service experience, we can go do church down there, cram in there right there and pretend like we're avoiding the Roman persecution and whatnot. But it's a wonderful thing. I'm really thankful to Sean and Shay for putting this together. It's my first time here at Centerville getting just to be a volunteer worker instead of the youth minister. And so I'm really grateful to them and the hard work that they put in, on top of countless others. And I would love to name names, but I won't. People who worked really hard this week to make this happen. What we do in VBS by making faith and the Christian story accessible to our little kids, to kind of give it a positive experience and ingrain it deep in their memories and their imagination. Man, this is one of the most important things we can do. It might seem a bit frivolous, it might seem a bit inconvenient at times, but taking the gospel story and making it so accessible and memorable to our little people, man, that is such a blessing, and I'm so grateful that we do that. And I'm really excited about this specific VBS because Delaney and I are huge fans of the national parks. In fact, in Delaney and I's bedroom, we have a map with all the national parks marked on it, and each and every one we placed a pin. We have a red pin if we've not been to that one yet. We have a yellow pin if one of us has been, and a green pin if we have been together. And our goal is, by the end of our lives, to get to see all of the national parks that cover our great country. Most of our vacations before having kids, not so much after having kids, but before having kids, we're traveling to those parks and living off the campsites and trying to do it as cheap as we could to see the great things that were there. Climbing mountains in Virginia and Tennessee, sailing off to islands, uninhabited islands off the coast of California, camping out in the deserts in Utah and Arizona, and we absolutely loved it. What we've discovered is that the sites that we've tried to replicate for you this morning are absolutely some of God's greatest handiwork, aren't they? And we are blessed to live in a place with so much diversity and so much creativity that God clearly spent quite a bit of time on making these beautiful things that we get to enjoy today. But what I've discovered is that if you like to visit national parks, you really have to discover a love for hiking, okay? While these sites are beautiful and they really try their hardest to make it accessible for everyone, like you can see some beautiful sights from your car. They have these real convenient overlooks where you can see them as well. The very best parts of these parks are tucked way back in the back, right? Back in the mountains, back in the woods is where the best stuff is. You always kind of have to put some boots to the ground and endure a little bit of a journey in the elements of nature to see the very best of the best, to see things like the waterfalls and the arches. I like this one. This is Narrows in Zion National Park. To get down into the bottom of the caves. You can't see that from your car. It takes a bit of a journey. And that journey itself to get to those beautiful sites, not just the destination, not just viewing them and arriving at the end, the journey too becomes part of a huge blessing. Getting to walk that path and enjoy your time getting there. It's a blessing itself. But to be pointed out, it's very easy to get lost in these kind of places, isn't it? You might have gotten lost getting to your regular pew this morning, just in a pretend national park. It's so easy to get lost if you're trying to get back to those beautiful destinations. When you kind of get on those, when you recognize that you're trying to get to that goal, and there's mountains between you and it. There's woods between you and it. There's miles and miles between you and that goal. There's a lot of things that could go wrong when you start that journey, right? From the beginning to the end, there are plenty of things that could go against your favor. And that's why something as simple as trails are such an important part to working out into the wilderness and journeying and hiking and visiting the national parks. These trails are essential for you to reach your destination so that you know clearly that you're going on the right path. When you think about trails, there's a handful of different kinds, and many times they're quite obvious, right? It's a beat down dirt path surrounded by a bunch of vegetation. If you are told that the mountaintop is in this direction, you know just to stay on the dirt and you'll be okay, right? It's very obvious which path you should take. You're not going to accidentally veer off into the woods. You're not going to accidentally veer off into, the poison ivy and the thickets. It's quite simple to know that when I want to go where I want to go, I just put one foot in front of the other and follow that dirt path. Now, what happens when there's a lot of paths that verge as one? How do you know which is the right path to go through? Here in Dayton, in our nicely cultivated metro parks, we have these wooden signs just about at every corner telling you which path is which and which way to go. But out in the national parks, when it gets a little bit wilder and gets a little bigger, you have things like this, where they just paint a little strip of paint on the trees. And you have to know what color you're looking for to follow. And about every 20 to 50 yards, you'll see a tree just marked with blue or red or white. And you know that as long as you're seeing trees with that just little splotch of paint, you're going the right way. But you have to keep your eyes up. You have to be on the lookout to see which way am I going, to make sure you're going on the right path. Now, it can get more difficult than that even. Not just the path is faded down, not just there are multiple paths and you got to make sure you're taking the right one. What happens when there's just nothing? All right? I never encountered this until going to hike in Utah and Arizona with Delaney. And when we got to these points where it was just this slick red rock, with mountains popping up and hills and big rocks along the way. And you're standing at a point, and there's just flat ways to go in about 7 different directions. And there's no dirt path, there's no trees to mark on, and you don't really know which way you're supposed to go. And in the deserts, they come up with these things called cairns. You know what this is? It's these little piles of rocks that they stack on top of each other. And when you see these things, you know to stay close to them, to go right alongside them, and you'll know which way you're going to go. Get into a little trouble out there when the kids think, oh, that's pretty cool, I'm going to make a couple dozen of these. And people get lost pretty quick. But they are just a simple way. In other words, you have to have it. Whether you're in the woods, whether you're in the desert, whether you're in the mountains, you have to have, it's essential to have these indicators to let you know which way you're going to go, because falling off the path is oftentimes a matter of life and death, right? It's a matter of reaching your goal or getting lost in the woods, getting lost in the wilderness. It matters. And the thing that I want us to see is this. Our whole lives are kind of like a hiking trip, okay? Right? And I recognize that's not some deep spiritual realization, okay? I'm pretty sure Bob Dylan has a song about that or something. But our lives are like a hiking trip, aren't they? They have a beginning. They have an end. Sometimes the path is beautiful. Sometimes it's rough. Sometimes it's exhausting. Sometimes we hike with quite a few people in a group, and there's a lot of fellowship. Sometimes we hike alone. But we're all moving from one place to another. We all have a beginning, we all have a goal, and we're trying to get to that goal. And if that's true, and I think we can easily say that it is, right? That life is like a hiking trip. My question is, what are your trail markers? What are your trail markers? How do you know that you are on the right path? What is it that you look for to let you know that you haven't wandered off into the woods? What is it you look for to make sure you're still heading in the right direction to get you to that goal that you want to get to? What are the trail markers in your life? Now, some people think that money makes a pretty good trail marker. If you're getting more and more money, then you must be headed the right way. If you're getting less and less money, well, you're probably going the wrong direction. It's easy to think that way, isn't it? And it makes sense for a lot of the world. Other people think that it might just simply be friends. The more friends you have, the more you must be doing things right. You must be going the right way if you're surrounding yourself with people, and if people love you and like you and want to be around you. Or things as simple as titles. You think to yourself, well, I got this big promotion at work, so I know I'm doing things right. I must be going in the right direction. I must be on the path if they're giving me this promotion and these titles and whatnot. And while all those things are great and positive to receive in life, I'm not so sure they're gauges to tell you that you're going on the right way, are they? There's a lot of people who are going the wrong way who are getting those things. It's a gift to receive in life, but they're not true trail markers. If you treat those things and many other things that the world gives us as trail markers in your life, you'll be deceived to think that, hey, I'm going the right way, when really you might really truly be off the path. See, what we believe here, what we believe as a church family, at Centerville, we believe that the path towards the true and the good life, the path that ends at the most glorious destination, is one thing: Jesus, right? It's as simple as Jesus. John 14, verse 6, Jesus answered, "I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me." You know, Jesus says, you want to know the way? You want to know the path? You want to know how to navigate this life to walk in the true and happy way? I am that way. I am that path. All right? Jesus' own footsteps themselves create the path that we are meant to walk down. You know, if we are willing and able to follow Jesus, to walk in his footsteps that he has set before us, then we are going to be successful through this hike of life. You know, maybe not by the worldly standards all the time, but we will find true happiness and success and truth and joy and peace and kindness and love. That's what we will discover if we walk in his path. And I know it sounds so simple. It sounds quite VBS to say, hey, Jesus is the way, follow him and you'll receive everything you truly ever wanted. But it's so true. At least at a deep spiritual level, it's so true. So, you know, and some people think it's too simple. They don't like that. It's too easy to say that Jesus is the way. It's too easy to say follow Jesus. And so people look for something else. They look for your secret codes hidden in Scripture. Maybe there's, you know, I got this clear path in front of me, but maybe there's a side trail that's a shortcut to it all. Maybe there's a secret path no one knows about. You know what happens when people go looking for secret paths? They get lost. Yeah, it doesn't typically go very well. And yet, it seems too simple, so people look for something more exciting, deeper. Other people think that the path of Jesus is too exclusive. So they say, you know, this is an obvious path, but that's too restrictive. I want to hike my own way up this mountain. I want to hike my own way to this destination. So they blaze their own path. You want to know what happens oftentimes there? They get lost. Too many times they get lost too. You know, can we just accept the gift that is the simplicity of Jesus? Not that a Christian faith is simple. Not that it's easy. But sometimes the truth is simple. Sometimes we can just accept that there is a good news and it's given to us in clear ways. And we can be thankful that it's not too complicated. Be thankful that there's a clear path to follow, because we desperately need this guidance, don't we? We desperately need the guidance. It is a confusing, chaotic world out there. You know, you just think about this with me. Why do we need a trail? Why do you, even just in hiking in the national parks, put it back on a metaphoric level, why do we need a trail? Why is it important to follow a trail and just go forward with no path? We've kind of alluded to this a little bit, but first is, you know, to stay safe. You stay on the path to stay safe. Going off a trail not only makes your journey much more difficult, but it can also be really dangerous, okay? It can be really dangerous to get off the path and try to bushwhack your own way. You'll run into thickets and thorns. You'll run into poison ivy. You're more likely to come upon impassable rivers or impassable cliffs that the path has been created and designed to work around. You're even more likely to bump into wild animals that are avoiding the path because they're trying to avoid humans, but when you get into their territory, you put yourself in danger. There is a lot of pain and a lot of danger when you get off the way. The path is smoother. It's clear of obstruction. It's easier on your mind. It's easier on your body. You know, following Jesus is a better, healthier, and more satisfying way. It is the safer, better way. John 10:10, you've heard me recite this one a lot. The thief comes only to kill, to steal, and destroy. But I have come, Jesus says, so they may have life and have it abundantly. Now, the way of Christ is not always easy. It's not always safe. I just already referenced the first century church. Jesus tells us that his way comes with its own unique pains and its own unique difficulties. But with that said, we still believe, don't we, that it is a better, more rewarding way than any other. It is a better, more rewarding way than any other. At the end of the day, at the end of the hike, it will give you something more satisfactory, more healthy, more smoother, and more better. You In fact, a couple other scriptures here. Isaiah 48:17. I heard from Mark this week that he was going to be preaching on this text today, on Sunday. And I told him, I was emailing with him a little bit, saying that my sermon was similar to that text, and I'd use it, and we could preach over the same text on opposite ends of the world today. And Isaiah 48 says, "This is what the Lord says, your Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel. I am the Lord your God, who teaches you what is best for you, who directs you in the way you should go." You kind of get this image of a father, right, trying to keep his son on the trail. We as sons and daughters of the King, who are constantly diving this way and stumbling off the path, here he is trying to tell us the better way to go, trying to show us this clear and helpful path. No matter what way we cut it, God is trying to tell us that he's laid a path for us to live a full and abundant life if we simply would follow what he's given us. If we'd simply follow the path that he's laid before us, we will be safer. It will be better for us. So number one, we follow a path to keep us safe. And number two, and a bit more obviously, we follow a trail to reach our destination, right? To reach our destination. Maybe we want to get to a waterfall. Maybe we want to get to a secret lake or the top of a mountain. But when we go on a hike, most of the time there is a goal. There is an end point. There is a destination, a goal in mind. And I know that I have spent my ministry here focusing on the importance of now. And I stand by that every sense of the way. That's something that needs to be said more in our churches in America. The importance of our faith and the blessing that it gives us now and today. But don't let that cause you to forget that there is absolutely a destination in mind. All of us here today have a goal that we want to reach, don't we? Each of us will one day reach the end of our hike. Our hike, for all of us, will end in death. But if we stay on the path, if we've walked the path clearly to the end, there is a glory that we cannot imagine on the other side of death's door, right? There is a glorious eternity to be spent when we reach the end of our hike. But that's a destination we've got to strive for. That's a destination we've got to work for. God is not going to force it on us. It is our life. It is our hike. We must determine if we want to reach that goal or not, don't we? It's a decision we got to make. Because let me say, we're not just going to stumble into it. No one just stumbles to the top of a mountain or to the lake when they go on a hike and they decide to avoid the path. There is a particular path. John 14:6, as we've already read, no one comes to the Father except through me. If we don't follow Jesus, if we don't walk his path of love and discipline and holiness and self-sacrifice and service, we're going to get disoriented from our destination real fast. If we don't walk his path, if we don't follow his footsteps of love and discipline and self-sacrifice, we're going to get disoriented from our destination real fast. We've got to follow the way if we want to stay safe and if we want to reach the destination. Now, the coolest hike that I have ever hiked in my life is at Zion National Park, which I don't think is represented here today, but Zion National Park, and it's called Angel's Landing. It got that name because the park director who wanted to make a hike to this peak, he said, I want to make us a hike where we get people onto that little ridge line, that peak right there. And the guy who was telling this to said, yeah, that's not going to happen. Okay? The only way people are getting on there is if it's angels landing from heaven or landing right there. No humans getting up there. Well, they made the hike, okay? And I got to say, I'm very proud of this hike, not only because of the physical toll it took to get to the top, but also because I'm a little afraid of heights, all right? And this was a high place. A lot of the trail looks like this, okay? Well, you got a couple thousand feet dropping off from both sides with just a few feet to walk on in between. And people are going both ways on this, mind you. There's people coming this way and people going that way. And you kind of clutch your chest a little bit when you get to a flat spot. Do you want to guess how dearly I stuck to the path on this hike? Yeah, perfectly. There was not an inch of wandering for my feet. I was not looking to the left. I was not looking to the right. I was not stumbling away for a second. I stuck on that path as tightly and as perfectly as I could because I wanted to stay alive and I wanted to reach my goal. Sometimes we've got to look around in this world and realize the stakes are high. I wish we could have this kind of dedication, motivation to stay true to the path. Because it's not any less scary to fall off the path in our faith walk, is it? You put it like this, your adrenaline will kick in. Your natural instincts will kick in. Why doesn't that work in our faith? Why don't we see our life like that? Because Jesus says in the Sermon on the Mount, it's not too far off. He says, enter through the narrow gate. For wide is the gate, and broad is the road that leads to destruction, and many enter through it. But small is the gate, and narrow the road that leads to life, and only a few will find it. It's a narrow path out there, folks. Jesus paved us a path, but there is a whole world of other choices and directions we can go in. But only one will truly be good for you. Only one will truly reach you to a destination worth every step of the way. So this week for VBS, we're going to be looking at the Sermon on the Mount. One of Jesus' longest and clearest instructions on how we might stay on that narrow path. And he teaches us in the Sermon on the Mount how to deal with things like anger, revenge, worry, and so much of what we struggle with in life. And I hope that you can join us this week, adults and kids alike. There's classes for both, 6 to 8 o'clock every evening and through Wednesday, as we listen to Jesus give instructions on how to hike that narrow way. Because he is both our trail guide and our path. He's the path itself, because he laid down his life so that we could walk where no one could ever walk without him. So this morning, if you're feeling lost, if you're feeling like you're out in the wilderness fighting through thorns and thickets, if you have no idea what destination you're even aiming at anymore, let me invite you to join us. Join us on this path to get behind Jesus, follow his footsteps, put Christ on in baptism, and let him show you the way. If you'd like to make that decision this morning, we invite you to come now as we stand and as we sing.